How's it going, internets? What you were just doing there, that's what we're going to talk about today. You know what that is? Hold on. Wait a sec. Wait a sec. Let me tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you what it is. What it is. And I'll tell you in a second what we're going to talk about today. If you hold on one sec. We're going to talk about anticipation. The waiting. The waiting. Anticipation. I know that you were waiting. You were like, what is he going to say? What word is he going to use? What's he going to talk about today? Of course, it is on the screen, so you could have just looked over there. So, yeah, it could have reworked that. But let's go. All right, so we're going to look at what Frank and Ollie, two of the awesome 9 old men, founders of Disney Animation, defined it as. This movement prepares the audience for a major action the character is about to perform, such as starting to run, jump, or change expressions. A dancer does not just leap off the floor. A backwards motion occurs before the forward action is executed. The backward motion is the anticipation. A comic effect can be done by not using anticipation after a series of gags that used anticipation, so kind of mixing it up a little bit there. Almost all real action has major or minor anticipation, such as a pitcher's windup or a golfer's backswing, and feature animation is often less broad than short animation, unless the scene requires it to develop a character's personality. Okay, so we're going to keep in mind anticipation as we go forward today. So again, we are using Maya 2010, and this is the Goon Rig that comes from the How to Cheat in Maya series. We're going to pretty much do kind of a vanilla walk today, a real kind of neutral one, and I'll show you why in a sec. We'll have him do almost a little story beat here real quick. But I think in order to really accentuate the anticipation and that movement, we're going to keep the walk to almost like a neutral kind of a walk. So I'll just set up a real loose base pose. And remember, when you're posing, to focus on solid drawing, one of the other principles that we talked, so we make sure that the pose has some weight and it has some balance, and that it tells little bit of a story of what's going to happen. And it's got a good silhouette, so if you're looking at the silhouette, you can kind of read it from any angle. And let's see, this is the forward leg, so that arm's going to be back, and this is the backward leg, so that arm's going to be forward. That's how it works in a regular walk. We're just going to add a little bit of bend to the arms and swing there. Raise the head up a little bit more. Bring that arm back just a little bit more. Bend it up a little bit. Swing that arm back. And rotate this. I have been getting into these. I'm Turbos, or Casey. Don't usually do too much introduction these days. But you can check me out on my channel. I usually do some art stuff, or talk about animation or drawing. Probably might even enter into a little bit of gaming and movie stuff too. Hoping to do some more breakdowns on those when I get a chance. But I'm doing 2 books right now, and working on a couple personal shots and this walk-a-day series. So most of my days I'm working for at least almost 10 to 12 hours every day. So time permitting, we'll see how that goes. Okay, I've got a very loose pose here, just a real simple kind of a walking pose, not too over-exaggerated. We might pull back those hips a little bit more. And make sure we got the feet a little bit splayed out. I don't like keeping those feet too front forward. I'm just going to grab everything and set a key here, and we're going to go ahead and save our scene already, just as generic walk name. And I do kind of like to go over, when we're first starting out, some of the issues or trouble spots we might get today. It is going to be a vanilla walk, but we're going to have him pick up a glass, and we're going to anticipate that. So I think the only problems that I really foresee, or things that will take more time than usual, we'll be setting up the constraints with having something not have a constraint and then having one. So I think that's gonna be the only real foreseeable thing that will make this video a little bit longer than usual. But we gotta work on anticipation and trying to figure out how to get that in our animation, what it means for animation, and why we use it. It's a good way to direct the audience's eye to what's going on. So building up movement, it gets the hands ready to be focused on, so you can do some other movement that you really want to sell as the important movement. So right now I'm just setting up kind of a little derpy little table here. And what did I do there? Okay, let's go ahead and just delete that. I'll just create a new cylinder here. Like I said, we're just going to create a little kind of table, and we'll put a little cup on it, and we'll have him pick up the cup. A simple idea, but I think it'll help get us into the idea of what anticipation is for, how we can use it, and maybe not over exaggerate it too much, but keep it simple. Okay, so we're going to raise that up, and that. Can move those. We'll just move that forward a little bit and over to the side. We'll just have him walk by and pick up a glass off the table. Fairly simple idea for today's animation. And then on top of that, we're just going to have to create a little glass, and we'll do a large stem just so that it's easy to grasp for it. And raise that up a little bit. We'll center it. And actually, let's give a base to that little table, just a small one, and we'll shrink it down here as well. And I'm not really describing what I'm doing too much right now, so I'm sorry about that. I'm just creating some basic props to use for the idea behind this. So we're just creating a couple of polygon primitive cylinders just to give us the idea of what we want to do here. 0, 0, 0, that all out. And we'll do one more. And that'll be the top of the cup. Then I think we might, after we get this, we might model them a little bit, just so they're not too basic. But we want to get the idea here. And we're going to need to have the stem of this glass a bit larger because we want to fit it into the hand there. If you guys are into animation, there's a really cool Minions trailer that went up a couple days ago. That looks really fun, and I hopefully, if I get a chance this week, can put up a little breakdown, kind of like go through a couple of those shots and talk about them a little bit, see what we can learn from that. But it looked really fun. They have some really fun, inventive animation that they put in there, so I'd like to be able to share that with you guys. Let's go ahead and lower that down. This is going to be way too long. So shrink that up. Go ahead and move that. Now let's go in and select the faces here, this, and let's shrink them down a little bit so we got a little bit of edge there. And let's go into polygons, edit mesh, insert edge loop tool, and we're just gonna go right there and right there. And let's go back to faces, those, make sure we got only good stuff, and we'll expand that out a little bit. And we'll select just those, expand that out maybe Just trying to get more of a glass feel to it, or a cup. Give it a little more shaping and everything here. Again, we want to keep these props simple because we don't want to spend tons of time on them as we're getting this idea ready. And let's go ahead and just grab this vertex and we'll just drag it in just so it gives it a little bit of volume there. Okay, I think that'll work well for our props right now. Let's switch back into object mode and edit mesh without combine because we want to have that as a grouping. Then we'll hit insert and that will allow us to grab the main manipulator here for it. And we'll plug it right into the middle of there because that's where we're going to want it. And make sure that's working from all angles, that it's really in there. And what that did by hitting the insert key, and we're going to just hit insert again to turn that off, allowed us to move that manipulator so that way if we're doing rotates on it or any of that kind of stuff, it'll be right there. Okay, so we have him walking and we have this. I think I also want to combine these. Hit mesh combine, hit insert again to be able to move that, and we're going to set that at the base here. Make sure that's working from every angle there so we actually have it. The correct way, or the more precise way, would be to go into the top and side views by hitting the space bar and make sure things going in there. But again, try to keep these, hit insert again to turn that off. Try to keep these tutorials from start to finish around an hour long, so I'm not going to worry too much about all that. Okay, go ahead and we'll save off our scene again, and then let's start laying down the foundation for that walk. And again, it's going to be a real neutral walk. We're not going to do too much fancy with it, because the main goal is going to be a guy walks, picks up a cup. That's the only story we're really trying to tell here. And we want to show off the anticipation of right before he picks up the cup and how that would work. So we're going to switch that over to 48 frames from 24. Now, one of the other things that we'll probably mess around with a little bit here is the timing and where everything is located, as far as if that's as far as he's going to get in the walk. That's not going to be far enough, so we'll have to move that stuff forward. Okay, wait, let's bring that. So that means these two things are going to have to be moved up here. So I'll go 1, 2, 3. Maybe we'll make the steps a little bigger. Okay, let's just get them up on the passing position and then back down. And let's drag it. Again, we're just putting in all the foundational material. Oh, for some reason that's grabbing 2 controllers. Okay, you just want to rotate X there. Just so we can start getting our base set up. So we can start adding all the fun animation on top of that. But you gotta get the foundational movements working before you can move into any of that stuff. One thing that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, and I'll just mention it a little bit here, is going more pose to pose or straight ahead with animation. And I tend to do more of a straight ahead, which is go, you have your point A, and then let's just say, then you go to point B, then you go to point C, and then you go to point D, and that'll get you to where you want to go. Versus the pose to pose, which is you punch in your A, and let's say C is really important, so you go and you really find your C and D, and then you go back to B, and then you go in and do all the in-betweening and stuff once you've got those really strong poses. And for a lot of the acting shots that I do, that's how I actually work. Is go in and do those key poses that I really want to sell, but a lot of action, not acting, I feel like those work doing more of a straight ahead approach, because I feel like otherwise you have to go back and you have to tweak a lot of just movements, where when you're doing your action shots, if you kind of layer it in and then build build it up and then push your poses more after you've got it basically working. I feel like that works a little bit better. But with acting, you know, you really want to hit those key poses and those good facial expressions and really work on making sure the idea behind the acting works really well before you worry too much about the action. Okay. Now we're going to pop open the graph editor. You know what, I feel like we're going to need to make these steps a little bit bigger for this walk, so let's go ahead and kind of readjust this before we get too far. Okay, so set that there, set that there, but then that means this step is going to have to be a little bit further, and again, a good cheat is to look at the distance between the two ankles here, otherwise you can look at where it's positioning on the foot. Set that there, and we'll move that forward. Oh, one thing we got to worry about is the sliding. Since we're adjusting those, we want to bring that key middle mouse button and hit it onto 24, so we make sure we keep that key copied. And it's not going to slide back to where we had it previously. So we take what we have here at 24, since we just readjusted that, and move that to 36. And take what we have at 36 and move that forward even more. And then this one's going to be something like that. And then that will give us a further movement in the hips. Okay, let's just watch that now. Okay, I do want to have a little bit of space between these two so that they're not covering each other. That should still give us enough space. Okay, so let's see if I almost want them to be kind of right here. So let's go ahead and increase those steps again. So we'll pull that back a little bit, like that, and that'll give us the forward. Again, we could have really started off a little more exaggerated with this step, but it's okay. Like I said, kind of the timing and spacing is going to be a little bit that we'll have to play with, and also the constraints I feel at this one, just so that we get everything to be working together to sell the idea of picking up a glass through the walk. And one thing that's kind of something that you'll find later in your animation, once you're done you're never done learning. I feel like a good creator is always learning new things, but once you've kind of mastered the basics of stuff, then you're gonna find that you're gonna want to mix your acting and your action beats more, and that's where some of that new play will come. Okay, let's go ahead and watch that again. I feel like the basic movement is working through there. Is that far enough? Maybe just a little bit more. Maybe I'm gonna go adjust that. So I feel like this shouldn't be too long of a video today, but we might find that we spend a little more time on certain things than we initially had planned. So hunker down, we're going to work on this anticipation thing. But again, for right now, we are just building in the basics here so that we have a good solid foundation for what we're going to do throughout the walk. Okay, I feel like that gives us enough distance afterwards so we're not really inside. It doesn't have to be... I feel like we could pull those hips back a little bit and probably down a little more. Okay, I feel like that's going to be pretty close to what we want, so we'll just do Control S. Now let's go into that hip controller and kind of balance everything out. Okay, and let's check our translate Ys. And I think we're going to have to lower them a little bit, or we're going to get some knee pops in the up and down. because we made the feet travel a further distance between the steps, if we also increase the height on that, it'll give us a lot of knee pops on that other opposing planted foot. So we just want to be careful of that. Okay, so now that we got that, let's go in here. Okay, let's make sure we're there, so we'll tilt that way, and we'll lean over the sway over the planted foot here, and again over again, and translate back. We'll go in the graph editor and we'll balance that stuff out. We don't want too much sway, so maybe a little under 1, and the reason why I say a little under the 1 here is just because I've used this rig a lot and I kind of know how much sway is going to feel like what, but I think that's a nice little amount. And we'll do a tiny bit of rotate on each side. Again, we want to keep the walk part almost not the focus of today's video. We want to make the anticipation and picking up the cup the focus. So if we can make the walk as neutral as we can, that's probably going to be good for us, so that we can make sure that we can catch the viewer's eye looking at this hand and that action of picking up the cup. We also want to anticipate it, so we're going to bring back the hand and then scoop up on the cup, and we're also going to change it so that the head is definitely looking at the cup before we pick it up, because that's another way to add character and believability, is that like before you do have your character do an action, have them look and focus on whatever it is, and then do it, because that's a little more natural. Like if I want to make sure that I'm close to the mic, look at the mic and then I move towards that. It's just another way to sell that there's a little bit of thinking and thought process behind what the character's doing it before they do it. Now, rules are always meant to be broken, and they're there for a reason, so your character might be someone who doesn't think before they do something. So in that case, you probably wouldn't have them really look before they do stuff. So you just have to be aware of why an idea or a rule is there, and then when it's good to break it or when it's good to stay with the theory or the idea. Okay, let's get this. Let's finish on up on the hips. I'm just going to save, and we're going to rotate to favor that forward step, and that forward step, that forward step, and that forward step. I feel like this is going to be a little over exaggerated, so we're going to probably have to pull that back. So go under rotate Y and scale that down a little bit. 10 is probably still a little too much, but we'll see how it looks from there. Chest to offset and twist from the movement of the hips, and back and twist and back and twist. Okay, now let's go in and we'll balance that out again. And depending on how much time and how quick this movement feels of the pick up the cup, I might start off in our starting pose of having that hand that's going to pick up the cup up before, just depending on the timing. If it's too quick to raise the hand, then pick it up, versus having it up already and then still just pulling it back and out more. So that's something that we'll have to mess around with. I also think we're going to just make this opposite hand into like a loose kind of fist. Doesn't have to be a tight one. We don't want to sell that it's like an angry thing, but just a loose cupping of the hand, so that to keep less focus on that, so we don't have to add too much sway into the fingers and everything, because we don't want that to be the center and focus of our animation that we're doing. So that's one thing to keep in mind throughout a lot of your animation, is to figure out what is the point and the idea behind your shot, and how can you make the whole shot work together and feed into supporting that original idea. Again, I don't want it to feel like a tight fist where there's a like a purpose behind the fist, but just more loose grip on the hand. So that way it really doesn't draw hardly any attention from what the other side's doing. We're going to have to spread out that thumb a little more and raise that up. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. If you do, remember, throw some thumbs up at this video. You can like it. Subscribe to the channel if you have suggestions or ideas for things you'd like to see, or things that I should do differently or improve on, or anything at all. My goal is to do at least one tutorial or walkthrough, or at least let's animate kind of a video a day. So hopefully that you guys are enjoying these and getting a kick out of them, learning a little bit and getting inspired. Maybe we could tighten that up a little bit more. So let's grab all the mids here and scrunch them in a little bit. And let's grab the thumb spread. See if that works okay from there. Yeah. Okay, now let's go ahead and save off what we have again. Get the head already kind of looking at it from right there and rotate it X. I'm going to try to get like an eye line so that it's looking right there. Let's get that other arm working. We're just going to try and get all the neutral stuff before we get into the acting beats working before we have to play up with any of the rest of it. Okay, and then we'll go into the forearm and we'll break that up a little bit. So since it's swinging back, it's going to drag from the previous position, and now it's swinging forward, so we might even break it. It might be a little too much. It's okay to break the elbow to add looseness to your animation, but since we don't want that to be the focus, we have to be careful with how much we're doing. Okay, let's go into the wrist, and we'll drag that forward, and then we'll drag it back there, drag it forward there, back there, and forward a little more there too. We need to even out those swings a little bit more. One of them feels a little harsher than the rest, so let's kind of figure out where we might have overkeyed or over-exaggerated one of those moves. The main arm feels fine. I think it's probably in the forearm, and that'll probably give us one of those values is a little bit off. So that's probably this key. It's feeling like that. So let's go ahead and check that and see if that works a little better. Might just be that we have to adjust that ending pose a little more. So let's watch that. It's feeling a little more even and natural. I think we might break that elbow though a little bit more, just to give us a little more swing to it so it doesn't feel too stiff back there. Okay, and let's look at it from the perspective that we're doing. Okay. Yeah, I think what might help our shot is to start off with that hand already. Let's fix the rotate here. Feels like it's a little back. And let's rotate it out a little bit there. And maybe something kind of like this, where it's already like this, and then it scoops out. So we want to open that more to camera. just so that we already kind of have an idea of maybe what the scene's going to play out from that first one. It's more of a storytelling pose than what we had previous. But now just by setting up this pose to look right, it's a better anticipation and storytelling pose than what we had before, because already when someone looks at this, they can kind of, again, we still have to polish out some stuff, but they can kind of guess that the story of this is going to be him looking at the cup and what's he going to do with it, or how's that going to work. So you want to use anticipation in your movement and in your posing, and it helps give a sense of thought to your character and purpose. I mean, if you want to get some really over-exaggerated and fun anticipation, look at a lot of the old Chuck Jones stuff, where they like rev up before they run. They, you know, like even pull back and rev up like a little RC car or something. Let's see, that finger would be a little more straight. And like I'll tell you guys, almost every video, don't be afraid to look goofy and really you know, try to mimic or see how you would do it in real life, and then put that in your animation as well. And just still trying to get a good silhouette even on the thumb there. Okay, now already it feels like he's going to be reaching out for this. You can just see in there, the head is angled towards there, the hands angled towards there, and now let's watch it. Okay, let's go ahead and save off what we have. One thing I want to do before we do this as well is we really want to fixate so that the eyes are on there too, because I think that'll help a little bit. I don't always use the eye controllers on here just because not because that's the correct thing to do in animating, but just because they don't always show up, and I don't want them to flicker or anything in the animation, so I just usually leave the white people. But we want to kind of do that, and it's okay to kind of look past the thing. Sometimes that's a good key too, to make it really seem like it's focusing on there. That's it. Okay, maybe a little bit more X. Sometimes it's okay to really just stick it right in there, because that's what we're doing. So don't be afraid to just shove it right into there, so you know that they're looking right at what it is. That's one of the, I think it was Bula Robello, great animator. He did stuff on Planet of the Apes, and I believe he did stuff on Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and a bunch of other great movies. But one tip that he gave me, especially in acting shots, to really help with eye contact with your characters, is to take the eye controller of one character and to plant it straight into the like forehead of the other one, so that you know without a doubt that that character's eyes are focused on that character, on that other character. Okay, the only thing with that, before we get into that too much, I'm gonna go ahead and grab both of those, create a new layer, and turn the visibility off, just so I can see that, because I want to kind of narrow the lids on there a little bit. It helps give a sense of focus too, by doing the eyes on there. You don't want them too much or it'll look sleepy. And let's maybe go ahead and shape the eyebrows a little bit too. Again, not all this stuff is going to be really that visible from the camera angle that we're working on, but that's okay. You know, the more you add to it, the more. Let's go ahead and even open that one a little bit, just to give a different variation of shape. But the more that time you put into it, and the more love and animation that you put in everything, as long as it's not too over the top and it's still subtle and supports the idea of it, the more it's going to feel natural and it's going to feel real, and you're going to create that illusion of life. And let's go ahead and grab mouth down and lower lip curl. I like to kind of give a little bit of a pouty lip. Excuse me, got the hiccups again. Okay, so right now now that's a pretty good starting pose, and let's go ahead and save that off. And we're going to want to do something like here. This is rotated back and out. And this is probably going to be down. And we'll go ahead and even play that up a little bit more, something like that. And we'll drag that hand back. I'll have to use some rotate Z and rotate X. Let's really play that up a little bit. And then we'll go swoop down and grab that cup. Now I'm not going to set up the constraints just yet because I want to make sure this movement's working, and then we can go ahead and do that. We do have to be aware that we don't want that intersecting, so just try to find a go right till 40. And this, like I said, this is going to be a little bit of the playful period where we figure out what's going to work and what isn't going to work. So that's okay. We'll play with the timing and we'll play with the posing. And just want to make sure that we get something that feels good and natural with that. Maybe we'll even tilt that down just a little bit forward. Just want to get that right pose. Now normally when I do my posing, I usually do it and try to keep it, keep your rotate X's and then go into your rotate Y's and then into your rotate Z's, just because it creates for a little more controllability with your splines and everything. But you don't always get as natural and as precise a posing that you want, so sometimes you have to go in and you have to actually just do it on that frame and everything too. Now we want to make sure that there's a nice arc there. I feel like from here to there that's working okay. And then, so let's make sure that we grab all these controllers there. And we want to key them on 40. And I want to swing that forward. We're going to have to pull it out a little bit because otherwise we'll intersect the chest. Rotate it up. And we'll rotate that in. And we'll go ahead and raise that up a little bit. So let's see how that works. Yeah, that's kind of what we want. Now, let's go ahead and I suppose we have it 24 is fine, but I think we'll go ahead and do it at 28 instead. So I'll delete that 24 pose. And I don't think we need that one at 33, so I'll go ahead and delete that too. And now you see there's a nice arc where it dips down and pulls up. And that's kind of what we're going for. And now I feel like this initial move like that, that's really slow and not working for me, even though by 28 I want that, and 48 and 48. I feel like that all works. Again, we're going to just save our work because we got a good working version of that. works. And then we want to make sure that we turn the head a little bit more and everything too. But I think before we do anything, we want to kind of favor this initial pose here. So let's take what we have at 3, set a key there, and we'll hold that till, like, let's just say we'll hold it till 15. So we got... And now you see there's how you build the anticipation in here is we have him looking at it, we have the hand going. I think we might do a little bit of this to it. Then you got the pullback, which is anticipating picking it up, and then swooping in and actually picking it up. Now again, we haven't constrained it or anything, so the picking up isn't happening at this point, but we're building in all the necessary stuff so that we can build in the constraint. And sorry, for new people to animation, constraint is making it so that if I want the character to hold something, we make it so that the controller of the hand helps to control the object that the hand is holding. I think we could probably even go 2 frames more. And let's go ahead and raise that up a little bit, in a little bit, and back a little bit. Let's see how that feels. Okay, let's watch that now. I think it might have been a little too much, so I'm just going to key 2 frames before we had our extreme there. Move that to there. Delete that. We'll take what we have at 10, hold that to 12, and take what we have at 6 and put it back at 5, and that'll kind of favor this pose a little bit more. And then, now let's watch that. It's a little too much still. I think we really only want... Let's go ahead and just delete that 5, 8, and 12 key. Actually, let's set a key at 3 before we do that. And then we'll delete that 5, 8, and 12 key. Actually, did I delete one that I didn't want to? I think I wanted to keep that 17 where it was. So let's take the 3 key we have and we'll move it to 8. Let's watch that. Okay, now it feels like it's hitting too hard and not favoring it enough, so we take the 7 and move that to 5, and we'll take the 9 and we'll move that to 11. Now let's watch that. And then maybe one thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and key like that for 16 instead of 17, and that might give us some more fluid movement in between the keys as well. Maybe we'll even delete the extreme there. So let's watch that. It still feels like it's a little too much raise. So let's go ahead and set it at 3. Delete that. And we'll go ahead and hit 7 and hold that till 11. Move that forward to 18. Let's watch that. Still seemed like too much, and like it wasn't holding it enough, so let's watch that now. Okay, you know what? I think what I am going to do... Oh, you know why? We're not grabbing the right things here. Whoops. That's not good. grab all those controllers, and we'll keep what we have at 3, delete that, and delete that, keep what we have at 18, delete what we have at 17, keep what we have at 6, and we'll move that to 11, and move what we have there. Okay, let's try watching that. For some reason I didn't have the arms keyed right. Okay, now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna just polish up that stuff in the graph editor because I feel like the feeling's right, but it's a little flat. So I just want to polish that and make sure that it's not getting into like a stepped mode where it's just a flat key. You always want to have a little bit of a curve to it so that it isn't getting locked in there. I'm switching these a little bit. I don't know if that's going to work. Okay, let's go ahead and watch that now. Like I said, I didn't want that to feel like a big raise up, but a little bit so that it's kind of getting the viewer's eye to already go to that hand because it's giving a little bit of... Now let's go ahead and mess a little bit with the timing of that. I feel like it's happening a little too fast, so if we can, we'll give it one more frame to happen and one more frame before it happens that gets up to that, and one more frame while it's happening. Let's watch that. Now the only thing with that is I feel like this is getting too close, so we might need to push this stuff back a frame. Okay. Now maybe let's do... I like where it's at 40, so I'll keep that. And then here we'll lean the fingers back and we'll scrunch them inward. So it's kind of got a... and then by here we'll spread them back out a bit. Tips. Sorry about that. Till we get to like here where we really want to swing those fingers back in anticipation that it's going to be grabbing something. Really going to open that up a little bit more. And I realize that the timing of the fingers is going to be very similar right now, so we'll go ahead and get back into that once we're done getting some of the basic posing that we want. And then we'll have to tighten it back to, go ahead and set that there, to be gripped more around once we're holding the cup as well. And again, we're going to probably have to tweak this stuff a little bit more once we get the constraints working. But we want to build in as much as we can before we do that. At least that's my way of thinking. And now let's watch those hands. Yeah, that feels good and it feels lively. We could even rotate the head more so it's still looking at the cup. If we can get it to go without looking broken, maybe we have to do the opposite there. Still looking and forward. Okay. Alright. Now, the only thing, now that we kind of punched in what we want it to do, it feels like it's very linear in the movement, and we want to kind of favor some stuff. So we want to favor this end pose on the head and neck. So we'll have that hit a couple frames before. And we want to kind of favor this beginning movement. So we'll take what we have like on 4, we'll set that and move that up to 10. Let's see how that looks. I feel like it's a little too quick that it looks forward, so maybe we'll take that and move it to like 32. And let's go ahead and try that. I don't want it to feel like it's really jerking away. So maybe we'll take what we have at 43 and make that our new end. And take what we have at 41 and make that like our new 44. Don't want to feel like it's totally whipping around. That feels a little more natural. Now, you see we're talking about anticipation here, so I got that loaded up. Now the only other thing that would be nice to do would to be like pull the shoulder back here. Back there. And then forward there. Keep what we have there, move it to there, because we want to make sure that that movement's leading. And probably if we were going to do a like more polished version of that, we would really twist the chest open a little bit more towards the cup as well. Okay, now let's get started in the constraints, setting that up, make sure we got that. Now the easy way to do this, and I think that's what I might do for this video, is to copy that and paste that. So we have 2 of these cups. One is going to be here until, and this isn't how I do all of the stuff, but I think that's how I'll do it for this one. Up until there, and then here we're going to make it disappear. Other one is going to be there. So we're going to have actually 2 cups that'll go. And then once we have bear with me for a second, because I'm trying to do this in a way that create the locator, and I'm trying to do this in a way that it won't take me too long, and I don't usually use 2010 to do my constraints, so this might be kind of a cheap way to do it, but we'll set it up for this. So we're creating a locator here, and we're going to take what we have with this cup here, go to our outliner, Control click the locator and parent it, and we're going to grab the locator and grab the wrist and parent that. But that should make it probably go to where it is. So we want the visibility on there, but we should be able to turn the visibility off here. Key selected, and here we'll turn the visibility back on, and that should allow it to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch that. Now that's kind of a cheat way to do it. The right way to probably do it would be go into the constraints and turn the constraint on and off rather than having two separate ones. But I'm not sure that I built that into the scene as the way that I should. Now there's a little bit of poppiness in that cup, so we do want to probably grab where it is here and drag it back so that, because we do want some movement in it. But it feels a little too choppy here. So what we might have to do is rotate the hand back even a little bit more. And by adding a little bit of tilt to it as well, maybe we'll just do bear with me for a sec, we're just going to go through and make sure we get this working well enough. Because we got the basic posing that we want done, we just want to make sure that we don't... What does it feel like? Oh, you know what? We're getting some like intersection in the fingers, and that's what I want to try and avoid. So maybe we'll just do a little more rotate back. That might help us. Let's go ahead and raise that up. We just want to make sure that we get a nice transitional in between this one, and that. And now where we have it here, let's see. It'll still be more on the ground here. And the cup's going to be a little bit bigger than I guess I had originally intended, so we're going to have to readjust some of the posing here at the end. So we're going to rotate that back a little bit. Actually, you know what we might just do instead is... No, it's going to take too long since we duplicated it. I like the way that he was picking it up before, though. So maybe what we do is we feels like it's slipping through the hand, so we don't want that. Maybe we could even lean the head back a little bit more. What we want to do is grab the faces of this and shrink it down. Oops, wrong one. Okay. Let's see if that works. Yeah, see, that's about right. Now the only thing is we want to get switch back to object mode, and we want to copy that and paste that. Oops. That's not good. Delete all those. Oh, we have 2 of those now. Okay, great. Okay, let's step back a couple steps. Okay, so we're just going to delete that one. We didn't need to have 2 of those. Alright, let's go back into the faces here, and okay, let's turn his, nope, we don't want to do that. Okay, bear with me. What we're trying to do here is grab the faces and make the stem a little shorter on the cup as well. So, how are we going to do that? Let's go faces. Let's get really into here. Faces, we'll just grab these. We'll make sure we don't select anything else here. And let's lower that down a little bit. Hope that's not it. We want to do this instead. And we want to squash that down a little bit more. Okay. We can work with that. Now the only thing is we want to make sure that we can go into object mode and copy that. Now can we paste another one of those? Oh, no. Careful. Okay. Window outliner. Got that. Let's just watch it. Now the major problem we have is that the cup changes size because we didn't accurately grab that. The rest of it's all kind of working here. So, I'm going to save off what we're doing, and let's see if we can just grab the... See if there's a way to grab just the geometry of it, and if we can copy that. Now, can we copy that and paste that? That work? sec, folks. Just trying to set up all that. This, turn visibility on, rotate to 0. Okay. Let's see if we can get that to be here, here, here. There, we really want to see if we can match that up. And again, this is why I do the constraints the way that I said is the proper way to do them, so you don't have Let's turn that layer back on. Can I just grab that and move that down to here? Alright, I'm just going to pause the stream for 1 second here and get this all working, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Just had to, I copied and pasted the wrong thing, so I just copied this same polygon shape and pasted it there so that we had the same size cup after we resized it. So we got that. So let's go ahead and watch that. And we got that anticipation built in. It kind of slows in, grabs it. Now it feels a little bit like it hits and locks here, so I want to make sure that we kind of can overshoot that and make sure that it's not hitting too hard. And I think that's just going to be in the rotate X there. So we just want to overshoot that just a little bit. And we want to balance out that curve. Keep that key that we had it there. Okay, let's go ahead and watch that and make sure that feels about right. There, now it doesn't feel like it locks there. Now, let's go ahead and save what we have again. And let's make sure that we refine this hand pose at the end, because we want to make sure that it looks like it's grasping it, and it doesn't really right now. So we want to pull that finger out there. I think this one's working out, but like I said, there are a couple of ways we could work with that constraint, and what we ended up doing is making 2 versions of it, one visible and one invisible, and that is one way to approach things, and I thought it was going to be a faster method for this video, but ended up we had some other problems. So the correct way is to set it so the constraint value is turned to 0, and then turn the constraint value on when you want to do it. But that can get a little tricky depending on whatever props you're using, and just make sure. One thing I was noticing before was that the thumb was kind of intersecting, so we want to make sure that we give a little more thumb spread, or maybe some base on there and spread. So we got feels like it's a little too much though. It's okay for 1 or 2 frames, but we want to pull it back down. Okay, let's get into the thumb basement spread. And I want to just kind of delete that key there. Let's see. And that's not intersecting, that's just because the edge of the cup, right? Let's push the spread a little bit, or the thumb base back a little bit more. Maybe it's the thumb mid that we want to pull out. Okay, let's just go ahead and get on. Let's watch it. Okay. Now we want to take where we have the value at the thumb here and kind of hold that a lot more. And we can just do, so we're going to key that, and then we're going to take this thumb value and keep it close to that key for most of it. We could even drag it in and back on that anticipation for it. And then swing it out, back. Key the thumb there. Delete that so it goes, swings back, and then out again. Okay, let's go ahead and watch that now. It's a little too fast, so we're just watching the thumb on that hand. Maybe we'll just reduce it a little bit too. Okay, because we do want a little bit of swing on there. Maybe we could just take what we have here and leave it open for another frame. Let's try. It still feels like it. Maybe we'll just favor it. So give me that key, and let's try that. Make sure it's not intersecting on any of those frames. Doesn't appear that it is. Okay, I'm going to save all this, and I feel like we could add a little more of that up and down into the hips, and let's hope that that doesn't change what we have in our... Nope, everything else is still working. But that's why it's good to get all that foundation stuff first in there, so that you can then work on the acting beats. This is going to be a little bit of a heavier file since I went ahead and stuff and pasted it. But oh well, that's okay. Now let's go ahead and jaw out and over. Close down. So that, just to add a little bit of open so that it can get in. We also want to change the eyes. That's fine. Go up here. Still good. The stray kitty wanting to play. Let's see. Now, one little tip that I'll give you guys as well. We got still looks like he's looking right at it, and then we'll hit there. We'll go here, and one thing that's fun, or that's a good tip to do with the eyes, is to do a blink before, and then reopen them there. And that allows you to do the eye moves and have them hidden behind blink. And a lot of times that's what, when you're doing a move yourself, your eyes are going to naturally close. So if I'm turning the head from this way to that way, you just throw a blink. And that really throws the movement of the eyes back and forth. So now we just have to make sure that we're getting everything that we want here. That's fine there. Losing a little bit of that eye there. We'll have to extend that one out a little bit more. Now let's go ahead and watch that. Now again, these pupils aren't going to be that noticeable, but it will add to the extra. We're losing some of the pupil here though. We want to still maintain that it's kind of looking right at this thing. And we're losing that eye then. This is just one of the reasons I don't usually play too much up with the eyes in these quick videos, because that can take a little while to get looking right, but that's okay. I feel like it'll add to this shot a bit more, add to the anticipation of picking up that cup. Let's go ahead and watch that. by keeping the rest of that walk really subtle and everything, it allowed us to really focus on the main focus when you're watching this is that his right hand. Okay, we're going to save off what we have, and now let's go and fix up the steps. I don't like the steps too much. So we're going to raise that up, drag the toe back, land it down, lift the toe up, and flop it down, set that up. I just had an error here, so I'm just going to save off what we're doing again. Make sure we're still recording. Sorry about that. And drag the toe back here, lift it up. Now let's go into the other foot. And drag the toe back, land it down, have the toe overlap. That way there's a little more movement there. Raise the foot up. Sorry about that beep there. And have the toe land. There we go. Now let's go ahead and watch that. As you see, we got the anticipation built in that the head's looking at it, the eyes are looking at it, the hand pulls back to grab it, then goes forward. So all that first part is just an anticipation of picking up that glass. Now, another thing, I feel like we could pull those hips forward a little bit. I hope that doesn't intersect too much with dots that thumb's going to go through. What I'm talking about is right here. You'll see that thumb needs to be out. Okay, I'll just over-exaggerate that thumb spread even more. Have the thumb bat and base there. So we want to be able to make it. Okay, just gotta tweak that thumb. And that's why getting a good foundation of everything right in the beginning is important, because having to even do a little bit of that, you'll notice, will mess with the rest of your animation. So you want to really get that as close as you can. So we'll go ahead and set the thumb there, key that. We just won't have it go as far back anymore. Let's watch it. Okay, that still works okay. Save off what we're doing, get into the feet, and we'll kind of even out those steps a little bit more. So we'll go under Translate Wise, and kind of find a balance there for how much the foot's going to lift up. Go into our Rotate X's, find a balance for how much our foot's going to drag back. I knew that one was going to be a little much. Now let's go ahead and watch them. But I hope this helps you guys get a better feel for all the different things that you can throw in for an anticipation. It doesn't always have to be, you know, revving up before you run. It can be things such as simple as, let's say, I want to grab this pen, look at it, think about it, hold for it, and then grab it. You know, all that stuff sells the idea to focus the viewer's attention on what the main point of your shot is as well. Now, one other thing I wanted to do, getting close, guys. I hope you're still sticking with me and having fun, learning a little bit, getting inspired. Let's do a little bit of drag on those fingers, and you're like, well, it's a fist. Why would you do that? Well, to keep it alive. Don't want things to get too stuck, so we're just going to drag those fingers up, and we're going to drag them back, and just help keep this other hand alive. And even though we don't want it to be the focus of the attention, we want it to still get that illusion of life in there too. Drag that back. Then we gotta settle on which camera angle we think will best sell the movement and the action and everything. Let's watch that. And you see there's just a little bit of extra sway into that clinch now. So we're gonna take the index and we'll have that lead, and take the little spread and we'll have that follow. And I feel like this hand's working well enough that we set up some like overlap and everything in our posing that we really don't need to go in and do too much with the fingers to set off the timing and everything between those. Okay, so let's go ahead and save our file. I might do it anyways. Let's see. We saved what it is. Now let's grab the mid and tips and mid and tip, mid and tip, and mid and tip. Follow those and we'll delay those a frame. Then we'll go to the tips. And we'll delay those a frame. One more. And then we'll grab index, base, mid, and tip. And we'll lead with that. And we'll have the little base, mid, and tip, and we'll follow with that. Let's see if that did add some extra life into that hand. Yeah, a little bit more, especially in that sweeping action. There's a little more splay there. I don't know if I like this as much as I did before, though. But I think for today's example, I think that seems like a good place to call it for today. So what we usually do next is go in and we'll show none, and then go NURB curves, NURB surfaces, and polygons, and then we'll hide the curves. Oh, sorry, hide the NURB curves, and we'll grab all the extra manipulators that don't hide when that comes, and we'll create a new layer there, and we'll hide that layer. And let's go ahead and watch it now that we don't have that distracting us, see if there's anything else. And by tilting the cup and everything, we added a little bit of drag to the cup as well. I could probably play that up even more, but I think for the sake of keeping these relatively within that hour, which I'm almost positive we've gone over now. I haven't been looking at the clock too much. You'll find if you animate a lot that you get lost in what you're working on, and time will just slip by. But that being said, I think that will be a good example of anticipation. Make sure when you're working today or in the future or anything that you try and add a little bit of anticipation. It helps the viewer to be able to key into where they should be looking on the screen or what's going to be that important factor. It helps the character have a bit more life to them, that there's almost like a bit of thought or inner workings of the character before it does things, which adds an extra level of life to your characters and everything as well. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you are having a wonderful and awesome day. Thank you for watching. If you like the series, definitely throw me some thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you have suggestions for anything I can do better, or any ideas you'd like to see, or any of that stuff. Go ahead and leave it in the comments below. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having an awesome week and that everything is going wonderful and amazing for ya. And with that being said, love ya, and we will see you right there watching.